After all voters have cast their votes, detainee voting and emergency accessible polling place ballots, if any, have been batch-fed, the Electoral Board will close the polls by performing the procedures indicated in the EB Companion and VCM Manual. Remove the main SD card from slot A of the VCM and place inside the envelope A18-B after the VCM is shut down. The backup SD card shall not be removed from the VCM, and the cover of slot B shall remain sealed. Write on the envelope the clustered precinct number, barangay, and city, municipality, province. Place the initialization report, precinct statistical report, in the corresponding envelope A-18C to A18-E. Disconnect the battery from the VCM, the battery cables from the battery, the power cable of the VCM from the electrical outlet, and the power cable from the VCM. Return the I buttons and pins to the Ziploc. Place the battery inside its battery box. Place the power cord and the battery cables inside the VCM box, and close the VCM box with sealing sticker provided for this purpose. After closing the VCM, the EB chairperson, in the presence of the other members, will record a quantity of unused ballots in the minutes. Tear the unused ballot in half, lengthwise. Place each half of the torn ballots in the two envelopes for rejected ballots, half of torn unused official ballots, and other half of torn unused official ballots, CEF number A15. One of the envelopes will be submitted to the election officer for safekeeping, and the other envelope will be left inside the ballot box. This fact will be entered in the minutes. The Electoral Board will then print copies of the election returns. All EB members, together with the present watchers, will sign and affix their thumb marks in the certification portion of the election returns. Post one copy of the election returns in a conspicuous place inside the polling place, and fold the election returns individually. The first 8 copies of the election returns should be sealed with serially numbered paper seals and placed in their respective envelopes. Affix your signatures on the paper seals and envelopes on the space provided. The watchers present should also affix their signature. The election returns will be distributed to the following: in the election of senators and party list system, City Municipal Board of Canvassers, the Commission, Accredited Citizens Arm, Dominant Majority Party as determined by the Commission in accordance with law, Dominant Minority Party as determined by the Commission in accordance with law, Provincial Board of Canvassers, 10 accredited major national parties, excluding the dominant majority and minority parties, in accordance with a voluntary agreement among them, 2 accredited major local parties, in accordance with a voluntary agreement among them, 4 national broadcast or print media entities as may be equitably determined by the Commission, 2 local broadcast or print media entities as may be equitably determined by the Commission, 4 major citizens' arm, including the Accredited Citizens Arm and other non-partisan groups or organization enlisted by the Commission. Ballot box. In the election of local officials and members of the House of Representatives, City Municipal Board of Canvassers, the Commission, Provincial Board of Canvassers, Regional Board of Canvassers, RBOC, in case of ARMM, Accredited Citizens Arm, Dominant Majority Party as determined by the Commission, Dominant Minority Party as determined by the Commission, 10 accredited major national parties, excluding the dominant majority and minority parties, in accordance with a voluntary agreement among them. 2 accredited major local parties in accordance with a voluntary agreement among them. 4 national broadcast or print media entities as may be equitably determined by the Commission in view of propagating the copies to the widest extent possible. 2 local broadcast or print media entities as may be equitably determined by the Commission in view of propagating the copies to the widest extent possible. 3 major citizens' arm, including the accredited citizens' arm and other non-partisan groups or organization enlisted by the Commission. Ballot box. Once the Electoral Board has completed the counting of votes and has pronounced the results of the elections in the precinct, the Electoral Board will place the following inside the ballot box: sealed envelopes containing copy of printed election returns intended for the ballot box, copy of minutes intended for the ballot box, half of torn unused official ballots and rejected ballots, and the VVPAT receptacle. Seal the ballot box with security seal and packaging tape by wrapping it around the cover and extending it to the upper part of the ballot box. Affix signatures on the tape and require watchers present to affix their signatures too. Turn over the box containing the VCM and its peripherals to the logistics provider. In the absence of the logistic provider, you can turn over the VCM box to the election officer. Accompanied by watchers, deliver the ballot box to the city municipality treasurer. For this purpose, the city municipal treasurer will, at its own expense, provide the necessary personnel and facilities for said delivery at the voting center. After delivering the ballot box, deliver the following to the election officer: Election Day Computerized Voter List or EDCVL, Posted Computerized Voter List or PCVL, sealed envelopes containing copy of the minutes intended for the Commission, other half of torn unused official ballot, initialization report, precinct audit log report, precinct statistical report, copies of the ERs intended for the PBOC, copies of the ERs intended for RBOC in case of ARMM, copies of ERs intended for Commission, envelope containing the main SD card for use by the CMBOC through reception and custody group, and other pertinent papers and documents.